And I'm Paulus,
And this is Up Your Arts.
the podcast that explores how the arts can enrich your life.
Hooray! It's so good to see you.
So just so everybody knows at home, Emily and I are not together, and Keith is not with us either. We are all in our separate homes. This is the, I was going to say lockdown special, but of course we're not actually in lockdown in the UK. Lots of people are calling it lockdown, aren't they, Emily? But
Yeah,
my
true.
understanding is that it's not a lockdown, really.
No, I think people can still travel to the UK at the moment. So it's like once they close the borders, that's like official lockdown. And when everybody stopped going to work, because construction workers are still working at the moment as well.
Yeah. And if you're in Italy, like a lot of my family and friends are, they're in a proper lockdown where you have to show paperwork if you're going for a walk and stuff.
Wow.
It's very, the idea that this is a lockdown is quite misinformed, I would suggest, compared to what's happening in other countries. Yeah,
because I have been thinking of it as more of like it's self-isolation that we're doing. So,
and what have you been doing to stay creative in your self-isolation?
Well, I don't know if I told you. So I'm still doing the artist's way. And I built a fort in my living room. So I might show you it later. So I've been continuing with the artist way. I had to get creative with some of my artist dates because I can't really go anywhere. But I did go on a long walk. So my exercise. I went to Battersea Park and took a notebook with me. And it was really nice, actually, because I went during the week. I think if I'd left it to Saturday or today, which is Sunday, it would have been really busy. So there was still a lot of space, so you were able to self-isolate and things. So yeah, so there's that. And then I've been doing holistic ballet.
What is that?
It's ballet. Okay, it's meant to be a modern way of doing ballet, but I just sort of think this is ballet. It's just not forcing you to turn out. That's basically the difference.
Okay. So as Emily said, it is Sunday, the 29th of March today, and we'll hopefully be bringing out this episode on the first Tuesday in April as a sort of apocalypse wow extra special version of Up Your Arts. We did have guests lined up to be with us today, and obviously for various reasons they can't be with us. So the plan instead, which little Lady Luscious has come up with, is that she and I ask each other questions. That's right, isn't it, Emily?
Yes, it is.
I've got 10 questions for you if we get that far. How many have you got for me?
I got around 10. They're not exactly questions, just more themes.
Oh, okay. Well, I can cope with that. I'm sure I can expand on anything you fling at me. Are you ready for your first question, Emily / Little Lady Luscious?
Okay,
right.
I'm ready.
Question the first is, what actually is burlesque, please?
Oh, now a loaded question. The responsibility that now is on my shoulders. It's many things. I suppose the modern, the way that most people think of it is the art of tease and striptease. But it really sort of began as more of a satirical and comedy, women reading comical poems. Then it kind of evolved to more of a dance. Then it became quite risque because they were wearing tights on stage. Heavens to Betsy. I just turned into my mum there. So yeah, then they were tights on stage. So I think it was the Blonde Bombshells, the British Blonde Bombshells, I think they were called. somebody will correct me on this, I'm sure. They went to tour in the States, in the whole in vaudeville, because it was vaudeville circuit over there, as opposed to over here it was music hall, a bit more musical. And then it's really in America that the striptease element started to come in. So they took the risque element to another level, and then we brought burlesque back, and then so then it sort of evolved. And what burlesque now, I think, is becoming, so when the resurgence started in like the 90s, it kind of worked with the classic striptease of the 50s, and now it's kind of going back to its roots of satirical, political commentary. So you don't just get a tease within it, you get like a statement. I almost got through 10 minutes without forgetting a word. But yeah, more commentary on what's going on in the world today. Boom. Sorry.
Hooray! Congratulations. Well done. All of my questions are that specific and that demanding, by the way. Just so if you need to make another coffee very quickly, then please do.
I'm just going to have some water for a second.
Right, come on then. Let's have my question, please, Mrs.
So your first question is, I want to know about the stage name Paulus, so how you came up with the name, and there's a little bit of history behind that name, I believe, as well.
There is a lot of history behind the name Paulus. So about maybe 4 years ago now, I was reading a book on the history of music hall, and this book is called My Old Man, and it's written by John Major, our old Prime Minister. And it is a little known fact that John Major's father was a music hall performer in the UK in the at the turn of the century, I suppose. Now, little bracket story here, little parenthesis story, which is the song lyrics "Ground Control to Major Tom" were penned by David Bowie after he saw an old poster in an old music venue for Tom Major, John Major's dad, and his music hall act. And so John Major's dad is the reason the world has David Bowie's song lyrics, "Ground Control to Major Tom." Oh my God.
Yes, my own.
I know, right? So close brackets. So I'm reading this book about the history of music hall, and it's written by John Major, and it isn't dull, it isn't grey, and it doesn't only eat peas. It's very interesting. And I find out that there was in the 1890s a French music hall performer who was very popular in England, who came over to England on a regular basis, called Paulus. And I remembered that my childhood was peppered with people nicknaming me Paulus. Not least of all, somebody who was going to be one of our guests today. Her name is Sarah Louise Young. She's very well known on the cabaret scene. She's directing my show Looking for My Friend, which is about Victoria Wood. And she and I have been friends since we were very young. And she first nicknamed me Paulus when I was 13 because she did Latin at school, because she went to a posher school than me. And but she wasn't the only one. Lots and lots of different people called me Paulus. I had a friend whose dad used to call me Paulus the Wood Gnome, and would never explain to me why. And it was like 20 years later that I found out that Paulus the Wood Gnome is a cartoon character. It was really famous, like in Scandinavia. And well, he's a little bald man with a white beard, which is quite perverse now, because that's what I am these days.
Oh my gosh. My mind is blowing right now.
The final part of this story is that I created the persona Paulus, and started using the name Paulus purely for my drag persona.
Yeah.
Which was created at Cabaret Roulette around 4 or 5 years ago now, thanks to Vivacity Bliss and the RVT for creating such a wonderful show and letting it happen. But when I was on All Together now on BBC, I needed to have a snappier, more memorable name than just plain old Paul. So I stole the name Paulus from my drag persona, and now when I'm performing, I'm always called Paulus, and that is the answer to your question. Gosh!
Hey!
Are you ready for your next one?
Okay.
Right.
You're desperate to get through all 10 questions, aren't you?
Yes, we're going to make this happen, people. What's your take, Emily / Little Lady Luscious, on the whole burlesque is just posh stripping argument?
Oh, you're never going to make this easy on me, were you?
No.
No. I don't know. I mean, I see like that was very much when the resurgence began, that it was very much people kind of referred to it as posh stripping, because you needed a corset, and wearing a corset and having long gloves make it posh. I'm not sure. But I don't know. You see, the thing is, when I started burlesque, I was out in New Zealand, and they weren't very posh then, so it wasn't really. I mean, my teacher used to refer to herself as the Disney of burlesque. So we weren't allowed to go down to pasties within it. It was big knickers and bras. That's as far as we were allowed to take the teas. Because she was very much, I wanted 1940s, very classy. So I suppose in that sense, yeah, I suppose it was kind of trying to keep it classy. But I'm having second thoughts about that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely now. I don't think it's as posh as it used to be. Like I said before about what modern day burlesque has become, is when you go to see performances now, it isn't just a long evening gown and rhinestones. There is generally some sort of story or some sort of theme to the acts, which makes it a little bit more interesting. I mean, so I don't know. It's maybe it was once posh stripping, but now it's kind of evolved to good fun and like political and exciting storytelling. Does that answer your question?
I'm accepting that as your answer.
It's quite funny because I've never really thought about it like that. I mean, somebody else mentioned that to me recently as well, and it's just maybe just because I have my blinkers on about some things that I just sort of like didn't really think of it as a thing. I don't know.
We've also got some shout outs today of what people are doing online to keep creative and to entertain others during these I was just about to say unprecedented times, which I'm getting quite sick of that phrase. So I'm gonna start the ball rolling by letting you know that she's already been mentioned, and she should have been a guest today. Sarah Louise Young, cabaret performer and dramaturg and director. She is learning the ukulele, and she's I believe she's already put out 3 songs. She's written and performed 3 songs in 1 week online on Facebook, and that's from having never played the ukulele before, I think, from about a week ago. So you can always check Sarah Louise Young out on Facebook and other platforms. What any others you know about, Emily?
Well, my sister recommended this thing called Harp Tunes Publishing. So they do a daily live drawing, and yes, so she's homeschooling with her kids at the moment. And so she sent a little video of George, one of her sons, drawing a sloth. And he was explaining it like the guy he'd been watching on Harp Tunes. And so I followed George, and I was able to draw a sloth. So this guy's doing different things each day. So if you want to kind of do a little doodle from about 2 o'clock, he's there every day doing that, which is quite fun.
And that's called Harp Tunes.
Harp Tunes.
Harp Tunes.
Yes, Harp Tunes.
Just one more for now. Our other guest today was due to be Mr. Jamie Anderson, who I've done a lot of work with over the years, and Emily's very kindly let us get on her stages together. And Jamie's a very, very well-known and respected vocal coach, and he's organising a daily vocal warm-up at 10:30 a.m. on Insta. His Insta handle is Cabaret Jamie. And this is, I guess this is born out of the work that he does in various drama schools, but actually it's open to everyone and it's completely free and it's very popular already. Weekdays, 10:30 a.m, daily vocal warm-ups from Jamie Anderson, Cabaret Jamie on Instagram.
Cool. So that kind of leads me to a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, what's the story behind Nasty Blouse? Because that is with Jamie. And yes, as you said, you were allowed to come and do Luscious Cabaret together. My poor husband had to down, I have no idea what you made him down as a drink on stage.
That was our signature cocktail. So I'll tell you about that in a minute. Nasty Blouse is mine and Jamie Anderson's erstwhile double act, which hasn't done much in the last couple of years, but we were around on the cabaret scene in London, and we went up to the Edinburgh Festival about 4 years ago now, I think it was, and did open slots all over there. And we are, I suppose what we are the embarrassing drunk aunties at any wedding. And we will turn up in as many different patterns as we can wear in one outfit.
Yeah.
Nasty Blouse, there will always be a Nasty Blouse on both of us. And Nasty Blouse, the origin of that name is that it's part of a Victoria Wood joke. Like a lot of my life, Victoria Wood is linked to it. And there's a really old, like 1985, Victoria Wood and Julie Walters sketch, which has the famous phrase, nasty blouse, when referring to a newsreader on the 9 o'clock news. And if you want to learn more about that, you can join my Facebook group, Looking for My Friend, which explores and educates about all such nonsense. Jamie and I have done loads of things together over the years. We've worked as teachers together, facilitators. We've been in adult pantomime for over a decade together on the Battersea Barge, and I very much hope we'll be nasty blousing again one day very soon.
Yes, I hope so too. Well, my husband might not after what you did when you got him on stage last time.
So we developed this game, and we're really annoyed because it's been nicked by somebody who's got a TV program on BBC Two, and I'm sure people will think that we nicked it from him, but we did have the idea first. The game is called "Is it a farrow and ball colour, or is it somewhere else?" And Jamie's created these beautiful, beautiful cards that give a phrase or a word. So, for example, clunch. Yes. Is clunch a farrow and ball paint colour, or is it somewhere else? And we get someone up on stage and they have to guess. And your dear lovely man was on stage with us having to guess. And if you lose the game, is it a farrow and ball colour or is it somewhere else? It's a very catchy title. You have to down in one a cocktail, our own signature cocktail, which is Kahlua and Ribena, which I think we called, what did we call it? I've forgotten now. Kalina, I suppose it would have been called.
Well, that's its name now.
I can't remember what it was called. That's how long ago it's been since we've done the act. It's real, and it really is a mixture of Kahlua and Ribena, and we really do make them drink the whole drink in front of this the audience. Yeah, I remember that. Are you ready for your next question?
I was just going to say, it was after that Alex has banned me from letting. I have to now tell people at Luscious that don't bring Alex up on stage.
Well, at least we got that rule put in place for him.
Yes.
So, Emily, one of the things you do is produce Luscious Cabaret, which I host, which is on at the Albany in Great Portland Street, usually on a monthly basis. Yeah. And producing a cabaret show is hard. What changes have you seen, good or bad, in the time you've been a producer?
Good Good point. I don't know. It goes in phases. Like, you sometimes have a good run of stuff. I think the noise factor. What I mean by that is like Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. It's like you have to kind of get through the noise, and that's kind of a thing that's been quite on my mind a lot over the past few years. Because as well as social media marketing evolves, so do people's like where they view things, so where they spend most of their screen time. So I began with Facebook, and so my kind of target market are kind of more coming off Facebook, but are they going on to Instagram? But I find Instagram is like younger people a bit more. So it's kind of, yeah, it's really kind of confusing which way to kind of like funnel. I suppose the thing that I found hardest is the marketing lately, is getting through that noise, really, and how your night is better than anybody else's. Yeah. So I had quite a I gave a weekly show a go in 2018. I think you might notice where I said a go. So that was really tough. And after I decided to can that, it was very much like I felt I needed to get back to basics. And so 2019 was really trying to kind of go back to the basics of my marketing and go back to like what the show means to me as a thing, and what the whole Luscious adventure that I started 9 years ago meant to me, and why I began it. And that's how, with the help of the wonderful Glory Pearl, she's a marketing guru, she sat me down and we kind of worked back. It was quite emotional, actually, unpicking it all. I didn't expect it to be that. And to go back to my why, and my why was, to have a space where people could come together, who were single, or who were in relationships but weren't settling down and having kids, who still wanted to kind of go out and enjoy themselves and meet new people and make friends. So we started with that. So that's where the step into a world of friends you never knew you had. And what I used to do a lot when I first started, because I used to work on the door, and I used, as well as being in the show and stage managing it, so that's where I've started going back on the door now. So when people get ticked in upstairs, and then as they come through the door, I then welcome them with chocolates. I was hugging. I'm probably not allowed to do that anymore. I mean, if we'd been allowed to go ahead next week, I probably would have been handing out hand sanitizer instead of chocolates. But to just kind of give that welcoming feeling, because when it all started, I just moved back from New Zealand. So moving back to London was kind of a bit of a shock of pace. And so that's how kind of Luscious began, was stepping into kind of making a world of friends. So it's now kind of continuing that. And since that message has come across, things have been, that's what makes our night unique. So I now know what my uniqueness is. Did that answer your question?
I think it was a brilliant answer, and I think it was a really, really raw, honest one. This job is really hard, and it definitely answered my question. Thank you very much.
So talking on producing, because when I first met you, you were running Cabaret XS. So that was was it an agency as well as producing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Excess all areas.
Excess all areas. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. My Skype handle, which we're using today, is Cabaret Excess. So for that reason, yes, I was. Is that the question, or is that a specific question?
So yeah, like basically, you kind of closed that down recently. So I've continued with it. So yeah, what brought about the decision to kind of close down Excess All Areas, I suppose?
Excess All Areas was predominantly an agency, and we had a production house side to that. There's a very long boring backstory about what they used to be called and then merging and rebranding and stuff like that, which I won't go into. But basically, yes, for a long time I was partly a producer / promoter of events and partly an agent, and I barely performed myself in that time. And I stopped doing it all. If I'm very honest with you, because I had got rather sick of being let down by performers mostly.
Yeah.
The thing about being an agent of any kind, and I spent many years being very rude about all types of agents, whether that be a state agent or agent like a theatrical agent. I used to be very dismissive of their existence and suggest that their job was one that didn't need to exist, and they didn't create anything themselves. They just made money off the back of other people. Having been one for 10 years, I don't feel quite so brazen in my thoughts anymore. But what was difficult was that your reputation relies upon other people stepping up and doing what they've said they'll do. And I lost too much money, and I lost too many opportunities. And every time you lose an opportunity or let down a client, you see your reputation that's at stake as well. And for the most part, that happened because performers changed their mind about a gig, got a better offer that paid more, simply just let me and therefore the client down. And in many instances, just hopscotched or leapfrogged over me in full knowledge of what they were doing to get the job themselves and cut me out. And in spite of the hundreds and hundreds of pounds that I've spent on Google AdWords and things like that. So it all just became, I just thought, I don't think I can, it was making me very unhappy. And it wasn't making me money either. And I decided to, in my very typical way, to throw it all out of the window, throw the baby, the bathwater, everything. It's all gone. So everything gets closed down. Everyone's dead to me. You can all go to hell and get your own jobs. All the shows, they closed down as well. Damn you all. No more work for anybody. Fuck you. And then I went back to performing, and that's when Paulus was created around the same time at Cabaret Roulette. And I just said to myself, look, if I can go out to do gigs, pack my suitcase, take my backing track, go to a gig, no matter where it is, and the only person I have to rely on is me to do that. And I'm my reputation rises or falls on that alone. And it's made me happier and much wealthier. I can't tell you how poor I was when I was an agent and getting other people work. And that's really funny if you know how many conversations I've had with performers who assumed I was rolling in money and ripping them off and taking far too big a cut and just laughing on the other side of my face. If you knew just how wrong that was, it's so funny, it's sad. And I hope that answers your question.
I suppose it relates as well to the answer that I gave you as well. Like, that's a hard thing of being a producer as well, is that your artists assume that you're walking away with loads of money. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've come back and I've just gone, I've lost money again.
Because you're the one taking the risk, right? And yes, they may well see a full house the night that they're performing. What they won't stop to think about is all of the nights where there was 2 nuns and a whippet there, and also about all of the things that you've had to pay for. Performers bless their hearts. The performers, unless they've done it, many of them just don't think about what it takes to put on a show and how much admin time and money it costs, and are rather thoughtless and unappreciative of the fact that somebody's created an opportunity for them. There, I've said it, I'll be hated by everyone, but it's true. So
yeah.
What I will tell you though is, as my next shout out, that a show that I created, an open mic night called West End Wendy's, which has been on at Toulouse-Lautrec Jazz Club for around 5 years now. I created that, and then I retired and handed it over to one of my students. Her name is Tamazin Kimber, and tonight from 6 p.m. on Instagram, she will be trying out the first West End Wendy's live. So this is an open mic night where usually people all come together in one venue and get up and perform for each other. I don't know how she's working it. I'm tuning in at 6 o'clock to find out what she's done with my franchise. And we'll find out by about 6:30 how that goes, I suppose. So check out West End Wendy's open mic on Instagram at around 6 o'clock tonight and support Tam Kimber there.
Yes, but hopefully it'll be the next time she's doing it. Our listeners will be able to tune in.
Of course. Well done. Yeah, I'm sure it will go brilliantly well, and she'll be still doing it by the time this is published. Thank you for pointing that out. Normally, me pointing things like that out to you, isn't it?
I know. I was like, woo! I'm getting there. I'm getting the hang of this podcast thing.
You are. Do you want to do a shout out, or do you want me to ask you a question?
I want to do a couple of little shout outs, because last night was meant to be my student showcase. So when we put out what are people being up to, one of my students, Jamie, who is Bobby Blue Balls, has been updating his costume, and he's been going, I think, a bit over the top with his costumes, which means that when we come back, that's going to be an amazing night to watch. I'm quite excited to see what everybody's creating at the moment. So people have been saying that they're making costumes. Another of my students said that they do creative Saturdays, so they spend their days on Saturdays creative, like writing. So that's Sarah Alves. I think I've said her last name right. I don't know. She also said that they've been getting dressed up for dinner. So they've been making a date night. So they put on their posh outfits and have dinner, which I thought was a really cute thing to be doing. And that's a creative way to make, your Saturday night in a little bit more interesting at the moment. So, yeah.
I think a bottle of bubbly and my best ball gown may be in order this evening.
Yes, so whilst watching West End Wendy's.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a couple of questions which I think could be sort of quick fiery. I'm pretty sure you can answer within a minute. Here's my first one. Let's see how this goes. What piece of burlesque music do you never need to hear again, little Lady Luscious?
Oh, Feeling Good. I absolutely love and adore Nina Simone, and I love that song, but it feels good, but so many burlesque performers have done acts to it, and all of the different versions of it too. there's 5 different versions. They're like, oh no, I've chosen Feeling Good, but I've chosen this version. It's like, yes, I've seen 10 versions of that too.
So not the most original choice for someone starting out in burlesque.
Exactly. I put it in one of my classes so that I tell my students, no.
Don't do this.
Don't do this.
Okay, so similarly, hopefully this will be quick fire and then you can chuck a couple of at me. Costume advice, your biggest no-no or no-nos?
I don't know. Labels. Sorry, I can't believe it.
Labels?
Yeah, people always forget to cut out the labels of their underwear. It's just like, you've got a nice bum shot and then you've got this label hanging out. Same in the back of the bra. Yeah, always cut out your labels, people. Never forget that. Don't leave your labels in.
Love it. Chuck me a couple of quick fires.
Oh God, these aren't really quick fire. Oh, okay, maybe this one is. Who inspired you to get into the arts? Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was a woman I never met. I think it was my grandmother, who is my father's mother. Her name was Dolly Martin, nee Dolly Coombs, and she played the pianola. She was very musical, and I didn't ever meet her because she died before I was born. But I'm told somehow by osmosis that it was her, that she's the reason, she's the link. Because everyone else is like an electrician or a chef or something, and it doesn't make sense. So it's got to be her.
It's got to be her.
So that's one answer.
That's one answer. Because you've hinted quite a lot about how much you did not like your drama school. I want to know the story behind the drama school. Oh, which drama school is it?
This is not a quick answer, so if that's okay that it's not a quick answer. I went to a drama school called Mountview, the Mountview Conservatoire for the Performing Arts, or Mountview Conservatory for the Performing Tomato, as I used to call it. And I went there from 1994 until 1997. And the reason I'm not very polite about it is because they threw me out 3 months before I was due to graduate. Now, the reason they threw me out is because I ran out of money. And back then I knew what I know now, which is if you can't afford something, then you can't have it. But the way it was dealt with was frankly appalling, shocking and disgusting, and left me completely at a loss. I was abandoned after 3-ish months of people promising that they would try and help me, or that there would be a way to get me to stay, or just passing the buck really and not really dealing with it because the headmaster was away doing a training course on becoming a headmaster because he was new. And everybody was sort of trying to help / not really dealing with it. Headmaster comes back and says, "Have you got the money you owe us?" And I'm like, "No, of course I haven't got the money I owe you. I've been telling you that for 3 months." He said, "Then pack up your, empty your locker and leave now." Like I was a criminal. And I said to him, "I'm aware that something happened last year, very similar to myself, a situation very similar to mine with a student last year. And a payment plan was arranged and help was arranged, and he was able to finish his course and pay back his fees for a certain amount of time. And in response to my wanting to discuss that and open that up as a dialogue, the headmaster said, "That's hearsay. Empty your locker." So if you're thinking of spending, thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of pounds and going to drama school, my advice would be, don't give your money to Mountview Theatre School, because they won't care about you one jot. And that's the answer to your question.
Maybe I shouldn't have answered.
No, I'm glad you did, because I've never really answered it properly. I've alluded to it many times, but I've never answered it properly, and that's the answer. And if they want to have a chat about that or take me on, I would love to hear from somebody.
Yeah.
Your next question, little Lady Luscious, is if I was looking for one great burlesque role model that I could either watch on YouTube or buy a book about and see old photos of, to get inspiration from as a newbie, who would you recommend? Anybody in the history of burlesque, living or dead?
Living or dead? Ooh. I do recommend like Sally Rand for fan dancing, because they're really like this, and there's some nice YouTube videos of her routines still live, and it's very kind of slow and pretty. I do like Gypsy Rose Lee. There's lots of clips of the psychology of a striptease artist, and there's also different versions, recorded versions as well. So that's actually quite neat, because it's funny. and it's talking. It doesn't quite. So when you're first coming into burlesque, like I was saying, you kind of imagine the 1950s sort of stylized stuff. So the Gypsy Rose Lee stuff is actually quite funny, and a little bit of, you know, subversion as well for her time. She was very subversive. So yeah, so I recommend like going and having a look at them, and yeah, and then it means you get to watch the musical as a bit of research too.
A lot of people don't realise that Gypsy Rose Lee was a real person, actually, do they?
No, that's true, and yeah, I mean, like, I just have an eye on the time there. Sorry.
I do too. I think there's time for one more question for me, and then a final wrap up question.
Yes. Yoga. I remember my eyes raised when I saw that you did yoga. I was like, Paul, yoga? How long have you been doing yoga for? Brought that about.
On and off, I've been exploring. I've been on a journey with yoga and had some kind of a practice for, I think, about 15 years now. And I first got interested in it because I worked as an administrator, not a teacher, at a Pilates teacher training school. And as well as meeting lots of Pilates teachers, I met lots of Feldenkrais practitioners and people that did Rolfing and Alexander technique, and yoga teachers as well. And although I never really got on with Pilates as an exercise or a form of class, I really thought, oh no, yoga could be for me. And I've had many teachers. I've gone to classes. I've had one-to-one yoga classes. I've done naked yoga. I've done all sorts of yoga. And now these days, it's almost a form of meditation for me. Sometimes when I'm very lucky with time, I can do 2 hours of a 2-hour session of restorative yoga in one day, and I've been doing it long enough now that I've got 2 hours worth of stuff in my back pocket that I can do myself. Not that I could teach that to somebody else or anything, but I know enough to handle that. On a very practical level, having worn heels for many years on stage, it is one way of me realigning or recalibrating my body as well as my mind the day after a gig where I've had 6-inch heels on for 4 or 5 hours. It's kind of essential when you get to your 40s and have been wearing not just heels but also corsets, and that's been knocking your pelvis out of alignment. It's when you get to be as old and decrepit as me, it's not only a joy and something I'm glad I have in my life, but it's also needed.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so wrap up time. So what are you most passionate about within the arts?
I am most passionate about the funding of the arts, or the lack thereof. I'm rather sick. In fact, I'm sick to my back teeth of the amount of money and backing and sponsorship that sport gets given in this country and globally in comparison to the arts. I'm not suggesting that sport should get no funding. I'm not suggesting that sport isn't good for us and isn't popular and isn't, something that we should have in our society. But I think that the amount of money that is spent on it and the amount of airtime that it is given in comparison to the arts is criminal, quite frankly, and disgusting. And I think if you gave it to people in the right package and it was supported properly in the way that sport is, the arts would flourish as well as sport. But we wouldn't all behave like arseholes like footballers do. That's my answer. And I will ask you the same question, Emily. What are you most passionate these days as far as the arts are concerned? What are you most passionate about?
And dance. I think the ability to just move and create, just playing around with movement to music. I think dance is like one of the best pieces of expression out there. And one of the things that I feel quite passionate along with that, which might kind of hook into your funding thing, is that how boys are bullied for enjoying dance. That really gets me upset. And I want people to be, boys to be able to enjoy dance as much as girls, and across the board. And so I'm quite passionate about making it that everyone dances for everyone. Everyone should enjoy it. Being that free when you're moving to music, what's not to love about that? And why should people be bullied who enjoy that? So I really feel passionate about dance, and I think it's a wonderful expression, and we should all just shimmy and have a wonderful time.
I feel the need to watch Billy Elliot tonight when I'm in my ball gown with my champagne.
Yay!
So we've come to the end of our time for today's podcast. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Thank you very much to Little Lady Luscious, aka Emily, for answering my questions. For grand applause.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Paulus, for answering my questions too. Like, hey, I managed to ask some questions. I had nothing prepared last night, so thank you for for giving my questions a go.
Now, don't forget that you can follow us on Twitter. Just look for Up Your Arts, and Linktree is where you can find all of the places where we are available to listen to. And then our Twitter handle is there too. The website about Luscious Cabaret, which Emily created and produces and I host. And more information on my shenanigans in life as well are all at Linktree/UpYourArts. So leave us a follow, leave us a review, get involved, and stay keeping creative.
And before I forget, we're going to give a shout out to Natalie Ross, who was our very, very first Twitter follower.
Oh!
So give us a follow, and we'll mention our 100th follower on our next recording.
Yeah, and actually, do you know that the Night Tsar of London, the one and only Amy LeMay, follows us on Twitter and is going to come on as a guest after the election in May is out of the way. She is a fan, a friend, and she wants to come and have a chat with us about the arts in London and venues in London, and what she does as the Night Tsar to support them. That's very exciting for the future.
Oh, so exciting. All right, cool. So follow us on Twitter, please.
And Emily, who's our next episode about?
Our next episode is with Diane Spencer. It was recorded before the lockdown. Yes, give a listen out for that. It's going to be hilarious. We talk about sewing. We talk about comedy. And just, I think, if I remember rightly, Paulus is left giggling in the corner. He cannot get up at one point.
It was actually really brilliant. I said to her after the recording, I said, I really want to go and do a weekend of improv with you right now. She's just so good at saying yes. And you told us something just before we came on air really amazing about Diane and inspiring for other artists.
Yeah, she's going viral at the moment. She's on 18,000 followers on YouTube. If you are looking for something to cheer you up, all of her hour-long shows since 2009 are on her YouTube channel. So if you just fancy binge watching some fantastic comedy, go over to her YouTube channel and have hours of fun.
And I will finish by
the audiences of that one as well.
Sorry, Emily, say that again.
You might see a drunken little lady Luscious in the audience at one of the recordings. I think it was Power Tool.
So I take this opportunity to finish off by saying I am on day 136 of a daily vlog on YouTube. I have not missed a day for 136 days. documenting what it's like to create, produce, and then try and put on a cabaret show. And there's been some obstacles, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
So you can find that on YouTube as well.
Yeah. And yeah, just before I forget, I'm launching Luscious Studios. So if you want to come and have a shimmy with me, take a look at Lush Cabaret. I'll be starting shimmy classes on the Monday, 6th of April.
Marvelous stuff. All right. Well, it's been lots of fun. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Keith for doing all the electronics and the technical stuff. And we will see you again on another episode of Up Your Arts. Bye-bye.
Bye.